Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dario Raciti. I'm the director of a group called Zero Code at OMD. OMD is a big media agency, part of Omnicom. I'll take you a little bit through an agenda, what we're going to be talking about today, a little introduction of who we are and what we do within the agency. Learning. Everybody's learning VR. We had to learn too. The challenge with the VR stats, that's something that we're struggling a little bit with our clients today. Hard questions are coming in fast after the initial excitement. Our VR approach, and then what we look for from developers that we partner with. So our mission in virtual reality, but also gaming, we started originally in 2006 as a gaming specialty group, and we focused on how do we integrate brands into games, and I don't mean billboards on the background, etc., but in a meaningful way. But then we moved on to other areas of gaming, the entire ecosystem, from influencers to esports, etc. And then back in 2003, 2004, we started getting into virtual reality as well. But the main goal of what we do is give the user or the player an experience where they're part of the cast of characters, to give you a role that you actually play with. Best-in-class interactive entertainment, we like to brag that we are a team of 6 people and we have over 60 awards, pound for pound, probably the most awarded. We focus on 2 verticals. We don't do digital buys, etc. We focus specifically in the gaming space and virtual reality. And we play a role, we get first look on a lot of the publishers out there, both on the hardware side as well as the software side. And we're also part of the Game Marketing Awards. Nowadays it's called ProMax Games. We spoke already a little bit about our playground, in-game, game hardware. We do a lot of launches for brands like Mountain Dew, Pepsi, etc., VR, AR. Influencers and broadcast live events. So a little bit about our learnings. So as I mentioned, we started in 2006 with gaming, but then in 2014, I happened to have a DK1, and I was interested in virtual reality and trying it out. And back then, we were working on a program called Nissan GT Academy, where we took the best players of Gran Turismo. We did a nationwide tournament. It was actually a global in multiple countries. And then we took the best player, we sent him to Silverstone, it was a historic Formula One track in England. And there, for 1 week, these guys were tested mentally, physically, driving skills, etc., to see who has what it takes to become a real race car driver, from the virtual world to the real world. And 2014 was one of the years where virtual reality was almost there. We took a crew and we just put a camera inside the Nismo GTR and had a winner from one of the seasons, Nick McMillan, go around the track and just to see what it looks like. We already had a reality TV show on Spike TV that basically took the path of these drivers from potential drivers to real race car drivers during that 1 week. But we wanted to give a different perspective for people at home, what it looks like to be in that car at Silverstone. So we did a small test. Actually, if you see that, there's a stereo set up from the outside when we did the outside scene. And we had only 2 cameras. We first shot this side, then moved everybody behind, then shot the other side, and then stitched everything together. And it was really just an experiment back then. The next thing that we did was for Gatorade. The client got excited about virtual reality. We actually got him excited about virtual reality. And they came to us and said, how do we put people inside a real professional athlete in a moment that counts? And in this case, it was Bryce Harper at the bottom of the 9th, Nats Park Stadium. And you're actually becoming him, and you're seeing him play and see what it felt like, the pressure at the bottom of the 9th. You're actually hearing his inner thoughts as you're watching this. And I'll show you a quick video of this.
It's about you and the ball. It's about trusting what you've got inside. out of here. Come on, get out of here.
And that ball is out of here. That's Bryce Harper with the game-winning home run.
All right, so we just got to the Little League field, and I'm very excited to get out there and see their reactions. It's gonna be a lot of fun. What's up, buddy? How you doing, man? Nice to meet you. Let the whole world see you. 1, 2, 3. Bring it up. There we go. There we go. Oh!
I was shocked when I took off the goggles because I thought it was one of you guys because you said raise your hand, and then it was him, and then my heart just started beating fast again, like I said before.
All right, so the one thing that we learned from that piece was, even though it was a passive experience, you didn't have any control over the action, you were just watching, everybody was having that instant reaction. Everybody that were putting the headset started moving their hands as they were playing. And we did focus group with a variety of groups, teen athletes, a little bit older audience, and over 100 people, most of them, the most vocal ones, they were like, well, you got me on that presence, you sold me on it, I'm there, why can't I move my hands and play now? And so whether it's a passive experience or an active experience, the reaction is instant, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen this with your work. So the next thing that we did was we wanted to do something for Hawaii. Hawaii's tourism is one of our clients, and they came to us and they had a challenge. A lot of people on the West Coast, they go to Hawaii, and first time you go, you're going to come back for sure. But a lot of people on the East Coast, they have a lot of other choices, and people from China also have a lot of choices, and around the world. But they see Hawaii as one thing. They see the beaches, they see the surfing, drinking on the beach, and so on, and they see it as one destination. Hawaii wanted to make sure that people understand that Hawaiian Islands is a selection of islands, each one with different characteristics, with different culture, local cultures, with different types of activities. And so at that time, I was kind of like fed up with the 360 videos. I've seen a whole bunch of them. A lot of travel destinations were doing that. So we started thinking about, like, how do we make this a little more interesting? How do we get people to go back and watch that video over and over, maybe multiple times? And so we came up with this idea of doing something that, at least at the beginning of the experience, is not just a video, but it is an experience where you actually have the chance to fly down through a glider in one of the islands. And that's how you select the island to go to. So it's not a full game by any means, and it's not a very complex activity that you do there, but you do get a chance to grab the handles of a glider, something you cannot do in real life. You see all the islands beneath you. You have a VO that tells you a little bit about those islands, and then you choose the one that you want to go to. Once you land, then we have the live action piece where a local person, a local guide, takes you around surfing through the waterfalls in Maui. In Big Island, you have a hula dance and so on. And I gotta say, that opened our eyes, because there were a lot of people that we showed this for the first time in Hawaii at a travel conference. Over 2,000 people came to see it. And we had a lot of different opinions on which one they like better. A lot of people like the video part better, and a lot of other people like, oh, I want to do more flying. But the mix of the two, I think, worked together really well. So the next thing that we did was we went back to a Gatorade client, and we're already done Bryce Harper, we're already done the passive thing. What can we do next? We've been inside partnering with 2K Sports since 2007. We've been doing integration for that brand in there. We have a thirst meter that actually tells you when your player is dehydrated and needs a substitution. But we wanted to bring that franchise to VR. So we worked together with 2K Sports, and they produced this piece that actually has product integration inside the game, and the product integration actually allows you to increase your stamina, your quickness, all things that are tied to real product consumption in the real world. If you notice, there are two things like dead zone, et cetera, where there's no tie-in. So we wanted to make sure that actually what you're seeing in the gameplay experience is actually what reflects what the benefit of the real product is. We brought in Paul George, which is a Gatorade athlete. He was doing the voiceover. He was kind of like your guide, your trainer. And the game was available on PlayStation VR shortly after launch and on Oculus Rift. I'm not showing all the examples that we've done. I'm just showing the ones that are kind of like keystones in our progression in learning. The last one that we did was for Mountain Dew, just released yesterday on Steam, and it's going to be available on Oculus Rift shortly. And this, Mountain Dew has done a lot of VR actually before they came to us. They've done snowboarding videos, they've done videos with NASCAR, race car drivers, et cetera. So they've done a lot. They came to us and said, what can we do next? What can we do something that feels fresh and innovative, and it feels a little different from what we've done in the past? We're kind of like done with a 360 video thing. And we took the professor. Grayson is a professional dribbler. He's a YouTuber. He has millions of followers on YouTube, and he plays around the world. He's dribbling street basketball. So we took him and we did this piece that was actually, again, going back to how we did it with Hawaii, there are two parts. The first part, you're seeing him challenging you and telling you, challenging a game of 3-on-3, and then becomes a game. We work with Secret Location guys on this one. And it was a very interesting mix. You see the live person, and you actually see three versions of him playing around you, but then you transition into a gameplay experience. So we wanted to do that because coming from the gaming background, we feel strongly that replay value is everything, especially today where cost for producing VR increases and has increased dramatically since the first time that we did it in 2014. You need to give that frequency back to the client. You need to make sure that that experience is going to be repeated over and over. And this is one trick where I think we can do both things at the same time. We show the real character, and also we transition into gameplay. There are a lot of challenges with VR stats. I mean, we're all hearing numbers, and these are some of the numbers that we used to share back at the beginning in 2014. Over 23 million Americans have already tried VR ahead of 2016 product releases. Everybody was getting excited, et cetera. We're showing numbers like this. $99 billion in 10 years, $4 billion in 5 years, and so on. These are all numbers that they were thrown out there, and we were sharing them, but obviously that didn't necessarily happen. These are some more recent numbers. I believe this one is from IDC that shows 100 million units by 2021. We are taking all these numbers and all these stats with a grain of salt when we're talking to clients, and we tell them, like, look, these are still early projections. There's a lot of investment out there, but the numbers don't necessarily pan out, and we've seen that from the beginning. Here are just some more stats that there's a company called Interpret that has a product called New Media Measures that we use for our gaming campaigns. And we look at VR users, and actually those reflect some of the results that we're getting back from our campaigns with different publishers. So you see 76%, so still heavily male. High index against 75K and 200K, so that two different segments there. And then obviously 18-34. That's the main target for now. there are a lot of hard questions that our clients are asking. Back in 2014, they were like, sure, let's try this out. It sounds interesting, everybody's getting excited, a lot of PR around anybody that did VR. But today, they're asking us questions like this. Is it gonna go like 3D TV? In today's world, media's world, clients are getting nervous when they're spending a lot of money and they don't see the number of units out there, they don't see the impression delivered, they don't see the app downloads, etc. Who's gonna see my expensive VR content? It didn't used to be expensive back in 2014. It is expensive today. What are the benchmarks for success? That's something that we're struggling. There aren't a lot of benchmarks out there. We have a few now because we are at our 9th VR experience, so we have a little bit of learnings. But there isn't a lot that we have. How do I know it works? These are all questions our clients that spend a lot of money in producing these pieces are asking today. And sometimes the answers are a little hard to come by. It's 360 video. 360 video VR, that's a question that we all get. For me, it is, as long as you see it in a headset. There are a lot of measurements, right? There are a lot of companies that are working on different things, heat maps, et cetera. But I think we're struggling a little bit because we don't have the basic measurements. We don't have how many views, for example, I see in VR versus non-VR. And we work with a number of publishers out there, including YouTube. YouTube cannot tell me how many of those 360 videos are viewed in a VR headset versus not. That's a very simple thing. Like, why do I need to spend $500,000 or $1 million on production when I don't even know if these people are watching in VR? Should I just do 360 video and put them on Facebook and YouTube? So there's a challenge there. I'm sure we're going to get there. I always tell my clients, they're like, look, we need patience. We're just at the beginning of this. But when you're spending a lot of money, patience sometimes runs short. So we have our own VR approach, and the first thing I'd like to talk about is I met Nate Mitchell from Oculus a few years ago, and I was asking a lot of questions. That was before even the consumer version came out. It was around DK2 period, and I was asking a lot of technical questions, and he stopped me and he said something like, don't worry about the technical part, we'll figure that out. VR is so much more than just the technical part. It's about understanding how the human brain works and what the reaction is to the content that they're seeing in that headset. And that stayed with me for a long time. I'm like, yeah, that's really true. There are things that I've seen in VR that may not have the highest resolution, that may not have the best quality, but somehow they resonate better for me, like on an instinctual level. There's no established rules. Yes, there are some people that tell you you can't do this, you can't do that, etc. But in reality, we're still all learning. We're learning mistakes. And what we tell our clients is experimentation is key. That's why we started in 2014, and we didn't wait for 4 billion sold or 100 million units out there. So our approach is really to enable entertainment and not ads. There are a lot of agencies out there that just try to take whatever they do in their world, whether it's digital or traditional TV, and take that and make it into a VR piece. And we know that does not work. So we still want to deliver on that surprise, and our clients are always pushing us to come up with the latest innovation in VR. How do we get the latest thing? We move from 360 video to interactive. What can we do next? But also, make sure that the brand is enabler of the content and is not just its only focus. If you saw the Bryce Harper piece, you see a little logo at the beginning for a few seconds, and then pretty much you don't see Gatorade at all. You see it on the sidelines like you would see in a stadium, but we don't say, go buy this product or that product. That's more an entertainment piece. You need to deliver on that. We're asking these people for a lot. They need to turn on the headset, they need to put it on, they need to make sure the tracking is working right in the room, etc. You got to deliver on that entertainment value. Otherwise, it becomes a bad experience. And then, even though our background is in gaming, but with VR is such a broad type of platform that we want to explore all areas. It could be art, it could be training tools, it could be a variety of things. And a lot of the requests that we're getting nowadays are are coming from all different types of clients, from financial services to automotive, etc. So a little bit of what we look for. We really looking to partner with developers that can create something memorable. There are a lot of developers out there that, like, I know, it's difficult to keep things going. You need to have work in between your other projects, and you wanna survive. You wanna make it through until enough units are there to justify the investments. But we don't want to do just another ad, and so I chose this example, even though it's not an advertising for any brand, because this could have been without any changes, and this is Pearl, by the way, if you guys don't know what it is. This could have been an ad for a car company without any changes, without putting a lot of branding. But it was a memorable experience. I think it was the first VR piece that was at the Oscars, and it was an amazing piece. Help us find balance between amazing and possible. And oftentimes, we kind of push our developers to cram as much of the new stuff that we can do in an experience. And there is a temptation for us to do that. We want to do volumetric, we want to do this, we want to do eye tracking, et cetera. And sometimes we need developers that just say, hey, we just need to focus on one thing and try to make it well, as opposed to try to do too much in there. Don't make promises that you can't keep. Back to that same point, actually, there are a lot of developers that have a temptation and say, sure, I can do that, no problem. But, I think that answer comes in because maybe they haven't tried it and they think they can do it. And fortunately for us, we didn't run into a lot of cases like that, but I know there are people out there that have struggled with delivering what they were promised. And finally, scope. That's something that clients and agencies hate to hear. This is out of scope halfway through a project. So for you developers out there, I would say is make sure that whatever you present a bid to a client or an agency, make sure that you have everything included and everything is clear, and there's no things that come up 3 months in that require you to ask for more money, because once that budget is set from a client perspective, that's it. It doesn't move from there. So that's something that, for you guys that never worked with an agency before or a big client before, should definitely keep in mind. And it's game over. So I think we have time for some questions if you have, otherwise I'm gonna. Go ahead.
So when you're involved with clients, you gave some great examples of either 360 video or actual immersive VR content, or both smashed together. When you're approaching clients in this work, what do you favor in terms of what's the least risk, best value for the client? What do you prefer to do in that case?
Sorry, repeat the last part.
What do you prefer to do in the case a client approaches you, wants some VR content? Do you prefer to do 360 because maybe it's easier? Do you prefer actual more immersive content, even though you need more developer time?
Yeah.
What's the balance there?
So again, we started as a gaming specialty, so we tend to go on the gaming side, even though it's not a game. It could be a simple level of interactivity. You've seen that in the Hawaii example. We don't, there were a few months ago, I was kind of I had it with 360 videos, just couldn't watch another one. And then, I started seeing some interesting things, and I'm not opposed to 360 video. I'm just saying it's, for clients that spend a lot of money on those, it's very hard to get PR or stand out in the 360 video world. Yes, you can put it on YouTube and get views, etc. We're doing something right now with Nissan and Star Wars, and it's getting significant views, but it doesn't use VR for what VR can offer, I think. So we like that mix, actually, live action, in-game, whatever it makes sense. But it really depends on the budget, right? If we have a client that comes in with a budget that can afford us to do some interactivity, we'll definitely go that way. And if there is a client that decides that they want to go within 360 video, I don't want to say that we try to dissuade them, but we're trying to dissuade them.
Cost perspective, is it less money to, from a cost perspective, is it less money to do a 360 video?
Depends who you partner with. There are very expensive people out there. We work with a lot of great directors. Ram Allen from The Mill, for those of you who know The Mill, they do amazing work, but they also, the shops are pretty expensive, whatever you do. So it really depends. Fortunately, we have clients that trust our judgment, and they don't question why we went one direction or the other. But it is a conversation. It really depends what the project is about, right?
Thanks a lot.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I couldn't hear.
I'm just wondering if you're encountering out there that people are also asking about augmented reality experiences as they're talking to you about VR.
Yeah, we get that question. I'm kind of like with Michael Abrash from Oculus on that. I think AR is a little bit behind, at least 5 years behind. There are some interesting things out there. I've seen, some the guys from AI that have that Holo product. It's interesting. I just don't know. It's not advanced enough. It doesn't give you that, it doesn't give you that level of presence, of course, that VR gives you. It's a different type of experience. So we're not discounting it, but I think VR right now for the type of projects that we do, it's more interesting. But we'll see. Magic Leap comes out and something amazing like being promising. Sure. Anyone else?
Hey, I'm just a little curious about what your margins are. Like, how much of the marketing budget goes into the production, and then how do you build in your fee from that point?
That's a question I'm not going to be able to answer. When it comes to cost and budget, I can tell you that we have different clients arrangements. We are on a retainer with clients, so we don't necessarily charge based on projects. And some other clients that are one-off clients, we may be charging based on statement of works, how many hours we expect the project to be for. But it really varies by client.
What drives clients to spend money on VR if the audience is small, like 6 million devices?
I'm sorry, say that again?
What drives brands to spend money on VR for the advertising?
What drives brands? Brands like to stand out there, get PR for what they do. They like to get noticed for the latest and greatest type of technology that delivers a different type of experience to their audience. And VR is one of those platforms that delivers an experience that's completely different from anything that we had before, right? You can't replicate what you do in VR anywhere else on any other screen. I can do a video and I can put it on many screens, but the VR product can only live in that headset. And it's a different way to interact with the brand, and that's what the clients are excited about.
For them, the audience is small. And if they spend a high budget on the small audience, what will be the effect? How do they measure this, the effect of your campaigns?
Again, we do track obviously results depending on the size of the campaign. We do brand studies where we measure changes of purchase intent, changes on recommendation, etc. So there's a variety of ways that we can measure that. But we also measure how many people viewed our trailer in VR and how many downloads we got on all the different systems. The one thing that we're forced into doing right now, because there isn't one winner out there in terms of hardware, and I'm hoping there's going to be at least a couple of big platforms in the future. We are spreading ourselves a little bit thin because we're trying to reach as many headsets as we can. So we have to do a Daydream version and a Samsung Gear VR version in a Steam version, an Oculus version, and so on. And that obviously becomes a little more complicated to track. But hopefully, I'm seeing good numbers from PlayStation VR. I'm hopeful that some other headsets are also going to start selling more, and so that we can focus specifically on fewer platforms, that would make us easier to track results and also spend more money in getting those results.
Hi, I just had a question about sort of the production landscape in terms of, like, you mentioned the mill. What are, like, the companies sort of at the forefront in terms of production, both in interactive and 360? I'm just curious.
There's so many. Just here in LA, I had to, like, there's a lot of companies out there. We like the mill a lot for specific things. We like the guys from Grab. We haven't worked with them yet, but they do amazing work on the gaming side. They have Knockout League, which is one of my favorite games right now. There are a lot of other companies, like Secret Location, the guys who did the Mountain Dew Beast for us. They're out of Canada. They do really good work. There are a lot of companies. We don't pick developers based on, there isn't one developer that can do it all. There's some developers that will tell you we can do it all. I don't think there is a developer like that. So we pick developers based on what the idea is. If it's more about gaming, we try to pick a developer that actually has gaming experience. If it's more about live action, we try to pick a developer that has a lot of live action experience. It's, I don't think there's a one size fits all right now from a development community.
What percentage of things you're doing are location-based type experiences for your brand? So, like, say, like at a trade show or something, where they want to, like, do an on-site experience versus pushing it to a platform or headset?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think back in 2014, everybody was fine with just doing, we'll show it at the LA Auto Show or a Comic-Con or E3. I think those days are behind us because the cost of producing these pieces has increased dramatically. And honestly, the clients have already done events, they've done it. So the next projects, they want to make sure that that project reaches as many people as possible. So in today's, now in 2017, we'll do a launch event maybe in some cases, but then we need to have a plan behind how we're going to be supporting that content. And putting a media plan behind it is something that a lot of people have seen like almost like an afterthought, but you actually have to do that now. Otherwise, these clients are not going to come back and spend more money in VR. So it's essential. I don't know how much time we have, but
I was just wondering about do you know of any companies that are implementing VR in a more sort of not so much brand recognition and loyalty or being the coolest thing, but actually practical integration into their marketing practices, specifically things like really high-end real estate and hotels that use it for tours and stuff like that?
yeah, so I know like you visit, and there's a bunch of other sites that have a lot of real estate agencies that create VR pieces, usually 360 videos, I think. I've seen some CG as well, and they just use it for selling their sales force different properties around the world. We don't have any clients that have that type of request with us, but there's definitely a lot of companies out there that do it.
Question on your left. What kind of timetables does it take generally for something of the magnitude like the Bryce Harper piece? Like when Gatorade comes to you and you guys agree on that concept, like what kind of lead time are you talking about? Is it 3 months? Is it 6 months? Is it a year? Like what are kind of the lead times to build those campaigns to be able to launch it?
That's up to Bryce Harper. That one actually didn't take that long. The entire shoot was in a couple of days. We actually had a rain day and we had to postpone it. But I think the timeline for something like that was 2.5 months back then. For something a little more complex like Hawaii, which had multiple versions, and Mountain Dew that has multiple versions on different platforms, that's a little longer than that. So I would say around 3 to 4 months. It really depends on the complexity of the piece. But when you're dealing with star athletes, you also have to deal with when is the athlete available, when is it available at that specific location, and so on. So there are a lot of variables, but usually we tell our clients at least 3 months for a piece. All right. Thanks everyone.